Hello everybody, my name's James. Welcome to the Planet FPL Gameweek 2 Deadline stream in partnership with FPL Team. And it's live. We are just gone past 5:30 PM UK time on Friday, August the 22nd. We are circa 57 minutes away from the Gameweek 2 deadline. And as usual, I'll be answering as many of your FPL dilemmas as I can between now and the 6:30 PM UK time deadline. Repeat/similar questions may be skipped, as may be those where the questions are answered on screen. Let me take you through some of the graphics before we start, and then I'll get straight into the questions. By the way, smash a like, freeloaders, hit the sub button. Top right hand corner, you'll see my free hit team. Don't intend to change it. So it's going to be Trafford in goal. Yes, I know Edison might start, but I've got Dubravka on the bench. Chalobah, Diakite, Gabriel, Saka, Palmer, Reinders, Semenyo, Captain Gyökeres. He looked great last week, I thought. Haaland and Evan Nilsson. I've got Joshua King, Alderate, and Esteve, or just Steve, in reserve. Bottom right hand corner, you'll see my predicted lineups for all 20 teams. That will rotate during the course of the stream. The grey ticker at the bottom has upcoming fixtures for all the teams and all the flag players. To the left of me, you'll see a rotation between my correct score predictions for the games and my top 10 captaincy preferences for the game week. That does start with Gyökeres over Haaland. And below me, you'll see the benching dilemmas, where there are two players together. The player with the tick is the preferred option to start. They run in order left to right, pages 1 to 4. You will find some goalkeepers on page 5. That's the spiel done. Let's get into your questions. Good luck, everybody. Billy Taylor says, yes, Jimbo, I can imagine you're not allowed to talk about an ongoing court case. So can you describe it in FPL terms? Hope it's not one of the really boring ones. Yeah, I can describe all of it to you at the moment, mate. It's fucking non-existent. I haven't got one yet. So I was meant to have a case yesterday afternoon. Got told at 3 o'clock yesterday that was off. It hadn't started yet. And to come back at 11 a.m. on Tuesday morning, which is magic because that means I've been out to work all day today. And it also means that I can do the Game Review podcast for you guys on Tuesday morning before going to court. AC Mannion says, hi, James. Final decision on free hit is to go either Senesi or Dorgu, just whether I'm back in Bournemouth or United defence, really. But it's not, though, is it? One's a very offensive player and one's a centre-back, so it's not quite as straightforward as that. Will you enjoy the weekend more if you watch Dorgu play? It's a more exciting pick, isn't it? I'd go Senesi. Sean G says, hi, James. I'm on free hit. Which pairing do you prefer? Cucurella and Bruno or Lacroix and Palmer? Smash a like, people. Lacroix and Palmer for me. Obviously, look, guys, for those asking free hit questions, I'm obviously on free hit myself. So I am naturally, like it or not, probably going to point you towards my own decisions. Aaron McCorden says, good evening, mate. Would you start Thiago at Brentford over Anderson? I'm going to guess that's Elliot Anderson or Reinders. Would you also start Porto? I'm going to guess that's meant to be Porro over Esteve or De Kuiper. Would I start Thiago over Anderson or Reinders? Yeah, I'd start him over Elliot Anderson, mate. Porro, Esteve and De Kuiper you will all find on the bench in dilemmas. Again, the player with the tick is the preferred option to start. They're running order pages 1 to 4. Goalkeepers on page 5. Thomas Thornton says bench one of Palmer, Wirtz, Gakpo, Reinders, Cunha, Ekiteke, Gyökeres, João Pedro. Cheers. Fuck a duck, mate. Blimey. Can I be from my own predictions? Ekiteke, as in my team lineups. I'm the only person in the world who seems to think that Ekiteke might not start for Liverpool. I think the sensible answer, though, playing the percentages here, actually is to probably say to you Florian Wirtz. My homie says, hi, James. Good luck this week on free hits. Start 2 of Adarabioyo, Porro, and Nico. I would be benching Pedro Porro. Enjoyed the Weekender pod earlier. Thank you, mate. Appreciate that. Smash a like, everyone. Great content as always. The Weekender will get better as well once me and David get more used to obviously discussing stuff regularly. So yeah, I think it was a good start. Steamroller says, hello, James. What are your thoughts on Man City versus Tottenham game? We already seen Frank adjust tactics against PSG. Do you think his tactical flexibility could cause problems for City? Yes, of course. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we go into these games with more of a chance. Mind you, we went there with Ange last year with no defence and won 4-0. So what do we all know? It probably is a back 5, but it seems so obvious that I'm slightly suspicious that it might not be. But yes, we go there not expecting anything, but with a chance, right? Pokey Party says, Bowen or Wirtz bench 1 or transfer Bowen for Evan Nilsson, start him. The Evan Nelson move would be a tempter. However, if there was no plan to do it, I wouldn't do it. I'll be very honest. I think if I've obviously owned Jared Bowen. If I wasn't free hitting this week, I don't think I would do it. I think I'd sit tight for the moment, personally. In terms of Bowen or Wirtz, I would play Bowen. I have put him on the bench in dilemmas, and he is above Florian Wirtz. I generally speaking do not like benching people that are potential talisman, which Jared Bowen obviously is. Steve says, hi James, what are your thoughts on Nuno and how it could change things at Forest? If he does go, let's hope they bring in Glasner or Silva. Please not Ange as rumoured. Look, I tweeted this. It's rare I tweet something these days that's not either to do with the podcast or Tottenham. But I did think that was kind of important to share on that. That's game over. That's inevitable. Whether that's next week, next month, couple of months, that's inevitable that there'll be a breakup now, unless something really significantly changes, because that just cannot continue as it is. So what's my thoughts on it? My thoughts is it's over. I wouldn't be, if you said to me Nuno got sacked tonight, it wouldn't surprise me, mate. I don't think that will happen, just for clarity, but it wouldn't surprise me. I think I know people want to focus, is what I wanted to say, on the Marinakis aspect of things at Forest. But Nuno is playing a dangerous game coming out and talking like that. You're inviting yourself for the sack, mate. Maybe that's what he wants. Ricky Donahue says, start 2 of Larson, Marmoush, Rogers. Larson and Rogers I'm pretty confident will start, so with reluctance. There's your answer. Billy Taylor says, also, I've currently got Adarabioyo and Romero playing ahead of De Kuyper and Porro, which feels wrong but also feels right. What do you reckon? I reckon you've made your decision, Billy, and you've clearly thought about it, so I've got nothing to add. Super Sam Plays says, hi, James, on free hit this week, and I'm looking for a punty pick. Thoughts on Alex Scott for this 1 week? Don't think Adley will come straight in. I like the position Scott was taking up at Anfield. I would advise against Sam, purely because the positions that were taken up at Anfield might not be anything like the positions taken up against Wolves. And you think, well, that's illogical, James. Like, it's against Wolves, so it'll be further up. Nah. Bournemouth played more of kind of a flatter three, with Adams deepest of that three, and they normally go with a 2 and 110, right? So it might go back to that, a 2 and a 10, and the 10 might be Tavernier. Zem says, hi, James, would you start Fulkrug or Elliot Anderson? Fulkrug, mate. Same thing, right? They could lose 4-1 tonight. He scores, and reality that's more likely than Anderson matching that. Stevie J10 says, hi James, I spread the cash for bench boost 1 and now decided not to free hit 2. Who would you bench from Bowen, João Pedro, Wirtz, Gakpo, Reinders? Reluctantly, it's Wirtz again, mate. Pesky Ball says, nice and simple, Jimbo. Fulkrug to Evan Nilsson or bank the transfer. This one's a little bit different to Bowen, because at least with Bowen we know what the security is further on. Fulkrug, could West Ham buy another forward? Could Callum Wilson get himself fit by the time we sort of get to, say, game week 4? So that one's a little bit more, that one I probably would. But I do think that for so many people, rolling will be the right thing to do here. So many people. Remember, for those of you not on a free hit this week, we really kind of analysed this in pre-season and said, look, Game week 2 is going to be a shit show. Most likely. It's going to be a tough week, probably. Now, last week was tougher than most people expect, and maybe it'll go the other way around. Sometimes just sit on your hands. I said this on Monday, that my one reluctance towards free hit is actually that I was taking out a lot of players who just blanked. I'd have felt more comfortable if they just returned. Next up is Sarah Story. Says, hi, James. Do you that Lewis Hall will get his way back into the Newcastle? He'll certainly get his way back into the team, but I don't think it'll be rushed at the moment. And I don't think it'll be this week anyway, because Livramento played Salah so well in the Carabao Cup final. The one and only Smith says, evening, James. Thoughts on swapping Diakite for cash? Hearing he could be right wing, also on free hit. If he was right wing, who would play right back for Villa? Bogard? It wouldn't be for me personally. Zaris says, is it too risky to play double Burnley defenders instead of Sanchez and Porro? Like and subscribe. James is an FPL god. Thank you, Zaris. I would not be picking Dubravka over Sanchez, mate. Matthew Skibber says, hi, James. Who would you pick from Esteval? Rogers on free hit. The one that I know that's going to play, that's Morgan Rogers. And that would still be the case. I think, like, even if we did get a leak, and a shout out for our patrons watching along, please tag us on Slack if we've got any Chelsea reliable ITK ahead of deadline. Even if I knew Esteval was going to start, I'd still say Rogers, because I just think What's to say Estevao has a quiet night and then comes off like 50, 55. It would be Rodgers for me, mate. Pushcast says, hi James, my condolences on the not so easy couple of days. Can you summarise your thoughts on benching headaches between Sells, Dubravka, Sanchez, etc.? Yeah, Sanchez top, Sells over Dubravka. Just a dad posting stuff here for the benching headaches and James' general expertise as ever. Love these and appreciate the content as ever. Thanks, mate. Have a good weekend. Kof Kun says, hi James, with Eze going to Arsenal, does he become a must-have? 7.5, probably nailed playing for one of the best attacks in the league. Plus, do Sarr and Mateta become less attractive? They certainly become less attractive at Eze just by the fact that he creates space, just by his being. At nailed, you haven't even seen where he's played yet, mate. Pranev says, hi James, I have 8 attackers, need to bench 1. Salah, Palmer, Bruno, Reinders, Adingra, Pedro, Larson, Watkins. Adingra. He might have the best fixture, but that's the right answer. Jason says, hey James, bench 1 of Reinders, Rodgers, and João Pedro. That's grim. Jeez. Yeah. Reinders. Burke says, hi James, no, Rodgers. Burke says, hi James, do I play Nico Williams over Truffer if I already have Sells and if I'm playing Sarr? I mean, I wouldn't play Nico Williams over Truffer, forget everything else. It's a great fixture for Bournemouth this week. Reece Ferguson, much love James. Porro over Diouf, they're the bottom 2 on the bench in dilemmas, so yes. Also starting Pedro and Palmer. And is there any world in which starting King over Bowen makes sense? Guessing not. Thanks. You've answered your own question. Good luck. Thomas Thornton says, hopefully you batter City. Take a draw. You can see Reinders being quiet with everyone bandwagoning, sorry. Hasselbank's win says, do Arsenal have the tools now to win the league or UCL? If Arteta can't get over the line again, what does he say given the money spent? They had the tools last week. Yes, they've still got them this week. Voshon Ramkran says, hi James, it's been a while. I hope you're well. I have Salah and Saka. Do I play the safe hedge and cap Salah, knowing Saka will be differential regardless? Thoughts? Salah's EO is not going to be over 100% this week. Captaincy is going to be very split, I think. I don't think there's too many Salah owners out there with captain him. He wasn't over 100% EO last week, so he's still going to be a winner in your book, mate. So sounds like you think Saka's the better choice. So there you go. Sam Streak says, good luck this weekend. James, out of these goalkeepers on free hit, do you prefer Sanchez, Petrovic or Henderson? Sanchez. The one and only Smith says, I don't think he'll be needed, but is Devaney a better 4.5 mid on free hit than King? No, because if I did think that, Devaney would be there. People are quite edgy about pushing this. Do you know Devaney's going to start instead of Eze? Yeah, that's great. Prefer Josh King. Sticksand says, what are your thoughts on Devaney as a 4.5 option with Eze leaving Palace, particularly on free hit this week? In terms of him as a buy, 4.5 option, wouldn't go anywhere near that. You just got to think about this logically. This is what happens to people. Eze's gone. Oh my God, I got a 4.5 starter in the 10 position for Palace. You think Palace aren't going into the market? Right, so free hit this week. If people want to go there, cool. Buy him? No. Ayub says, hi James, is Frimpong to Munoz a sensible move? Seems reasonable to me. The only thing I'd add to that is what I said on the weekend of this morning, that if he's the only 6 million you've got, I think you should stay at that value. I think that's important. Dan says, hi James, next week I have Romero versus Evan Nilsson, Saka, Raya versus Ekateke, Gakpo and Anderson versus Palmer. Is a free hit a good idea? Cheers, pal. I mean, in terms of your combos there, right? I mean, look, Raya could save a penalty from Salah. The other 3 could all score. Romero and Evan Nilsson could both score. Romero could pick up a DEFCON or something. So I wouldn't just define it on the verses. I understand the uncomfortableness and that, but I don't think that should necessarily be definitive, right? We had a conversation on the Team News stream earlier about playing Murillo versus Mateta and saying like, look, Mateta could score. It was actually playing Mateta, Murillo and Milenkovic. And it was like, should I play one of, I think it was Murillo as well. Should I play Murillo as well? And my answer was like, yeah, because the alternatives, if you hadn't told me the rest, from the alternatives, Murillo was the best choice. And I think you've got to look at it a little bit differently now, right? So let's say you've got Mateta, Murillo, Milenkovic, hypothetically, and like, this looks shit this week. And this is a better example than your one, Dan, because I realised yours doesn't feel so good. But Mateta could score. Right? Let's say he scores. Palace win 1-0. It's 9 points. What's to say Milenkovic and Murillo don't pick up 4-pointers? And if I told you he was going to get 17 points from those three pre-game, you'd be like, oh, wow, didn't expect that. And something like that is not that unrealistic now. So we just got to think about that a little bit more. There are scenarios now where playing the player against another player will still be the right thing to do. It's not to say we should do it all the time, of course not. But with some of these DEFCON players, we need to think about that a bit more now. So like playing Anderson against Palmer, it's like that's irrelevant, that one. Gavin Richardson says, hey, James, have a great bench boost. Unless that was meant to be, that's going to sorry, I've misread that. It's Joachim Anderson, isn't it? Yeah. But the same thing. Anderson could pick up DEFCON, right? Gavin Richardson said, hey, James, have a great BH weekend and bank holiday weekend, yeah. Play it your way. Smash a like, yo. Thank you, Gavin. Yeah, as a reminder, no content Monday is a bank holiday here in the UK. Me and Serge will be back Tuesday morning. Billy Taylor says, I heard a rumor that if you don't smash the like button, you'll pull your hamstring and your significant other will start going out with Eberechi Eze instead to replace you. Huge if true. I'd love it if my missus went out with Eze. One, he's got loads of money, and two, I'd get some peace. Yeah, smash a like, people. I mean, come on. It's about 20% of you smash a like. Does it cost anything, right? It's over 700 you're in. What's that? 125 likes. Come on, guys. Hit the fun button. It's free. It's free. It's free content. Come on. Thank you. Scouse Lee says, bench one of Bruno, Gakpo, Wirtz, Pedro, Bowen, or Reinders. This is getting, I don't want to say repetitive, but it's going to be the same answer. Wirtz. Zaris says, greetings from sunny Greece. We missed you, mate. Hope to come here and teach us FPL tricks under the rock of Acropolis. I was looking at Paphos, whose ground last night, because they had a good result in the Champions League, didn't they? I know it's not Greece, but it's far. It's further than I thought it was. Just dad posting stuff. Come on, people. 1 like, and that was me. Get on it. That's right. Yeah, I mean, it's more than 1 now, isn't it? Pushkar says, any recommendations for full Gronas? I have 2 million in the bank. Any upgrade worth it for a hit? No. Sit tight. Pushkar done. Jason Stilling says, what's the big deal with Alderete over 4 million? Thanks, James. We think he'll start from here. And truthfully, if it wasn't for Regis Lebrie's comments in his press conference yesterday, I would have been starting him, and I would have gone 8 Nori and Petrovic, and I wouldn't have Chalobah. But it was just a smidgen of concern that it would come on. Like if Trafford gets benched, it's like, okay, well, what's the chance of him coming off the bench? Not such a problem. Valderete would be like, he's still coming on, even as a defender. So I didn't want to chance that particularly. But yeah, he's going to be the best one, I think, of the 4s. Certainly in the immediate for this week, I think, is my take. I think Sunderland win tomorrow. Fantasy GAA says, what do I do with Fulkrug? Sell or hold? Well, if you don't know where you're going, mate, look, hold tight for the minute. If you don't know where you're going, hold tight. Yash Patel says, hi, James. Love the free hit for this week. A lot of upside there. That's what I've gone for, buddy. Thoughts on a move from Mateus Nunes to cash / any 6 million defender or bank the transfer? Cheers. It probably depends how you're lined up this week. I mean, there's every chance. I think it would be easy to read on it on paper, and I do think Lewis probably plays again. But it would be easy to look at the team that played against Wolves and go, Tottenham probably play a back 5, and therefore Wolves pick the same team. City picked the same team as they did against Wolves. But I think if you consider the qualities of Spence and Porro in terms of particularly their athleticism as well, Porro obviously technically very good, and their ability to get forward versus, say, what Wolves have got, he might look at it differently and go, actually, I want Nunes to really hold that touchline and push it back. As a consequence of that, maybe like Oscar Bob doesn't play, for example. So a little bit more information be useful. But the reality is, at any point, you could sell that player and he could come back in. I think that 5.5 caught people because it was attractive to be a bit cheaper. I would say with what City you've got across the whole of the next 4, I would probably move it on, but I'd be gutted if he started tomorrow. I think my prediction is that Lewis will play. Therefore, I would sell. Again, if you haven't got a 6 million, I strongly advise getting up to it. Dan Butler says, hi, James. Hope you're well. Thoughts on Nunes Press? I'm very worried as a Forest fan. Covered, and I emphasise, and you have a right to be. But you are buying a lot of very good attacking players. The squad and the team, I think, is set up to be very competitive across multiple fronts this year. And it might be that they're signings for someone else. and it might not be the worst thing in the world. Might feel like it, but it might not be. King of Mandalore says, who's the best Frimpong replacement if free hit game week 4? Feel I should avoid Munoz because I can get him for Sunderland at home. Milenkovic and Gabriel most appealing so far. Gabriel, I think. Yeah, I mean, if you're free hit 4, you free hit 4 as well, that's the next best Arsenal fixture, isn't it, across the 5? But if you think you'd want to end up with Gabriel anyway, I'd consider going there. I've discussed this a few times. Last year, I avoided him. He scored at Tottenham. He scored at Man City, and it was like panic buy him. And then did nothing across the next couple of games. So, look, Arsenal can keep a clean sheet at any time. If you want coverage of that and you're certain you want it and you've been forced into an early move, I would arguably say just go there now. Fixture is at least obviously very good this week. Cove Kern says, smash that like, people. Thank you, mate. Super Sam plays. Thoughts on Dorgu over Truffle on free hit. Don't fancy Bournemouth for clean sheet and think United might nick it at Fulham. Think you're answering your own question, Sam. You got a preference there? You crack on. FPL Gate, he says, played 2 of Dekaipa, Porro and Granit Xhaka. Love the content. I'd probably bench Porro. Harry22 says, hi, James. Thoughts on Captain Evan Nilsson this week? He's on the top 10. Wouldn't be my first choice. Just remember, this is a player who blanked against Leicester in game week 38. CH20 says, what's your long-term view on Palmer and his poor league form? How long would you give him this season before he comes to sell? Again, look, I'll watch the game tonight. I want to say the Fulham game is on telly, early kickoff next week as well. So I'll get to view the next couple. They might set up very differently across the 2 games. Then there's a break. I probably would be reluctant to sell him in game week 4, I think. So I think it's probably the first 4 for me. Then let's have a look and a view from there probably. But I mean, I've probably got him penciled in for captaincy for me in 6 if I don't have any City coverage. So I need to factor that in as well. James Brennan says, hi, James. Tottenham/Wood Green pub recommendations for the match tomorrow. Cheers and enjoy Manchester. Heard you enjoy a night out there. If anyone wants a drink in Wood Green tomorrow night, drop me a message. I might pass back through that way about 7:30 maybe. It's Beehive in Tottenham though. The Wood Green used to be have some good booze. Not really now for the football. No, I would just go to the Beehive in Tottenham. It's not great either, but it's kind of jack of all trades. If you do a few decent beers in there, it won't be too busy in there at lunchtime. You will probably get a mix of people like having their lunch / watching the football and stuff. But yeah, the Beehive be all right. Decent sized garden as well if the weather's all right, and that's a little bit cooler at the moment. The Beehive's my normal kind of shout for an away game, but I've not been in there for over a year because I feel like I've been to nearly every away game. Step, and those I didn't. I just watched at home when it was that shit at the end of the season. Step hence says, hi James, cannot decide between Evan Nilsson or Watkins. Money no issue, can see both scoring. Please help. If the money's no issue, like if I had the 2 million in the bank, I'd go Watkins. But I think Watkins scores this weekend. There you go. It was, I think, Evan Nilsson scores. I did come to a conclusion on the 2 of them that if one of them was more likely to get a hat-trick, it was probably Evan Nilsson, which influenced some of my other decisions. And I felt that saving was okay. And I kind of feel justified in that. And the fact you were saying, look, it's 2 million difference, I'm not sure. If it's money, no object, I'd probably Watkins, mate. But I also understand the appeal of Bournemouth because I think the looking at people like Scott, Tavernier, that of course they could go off in a given game week. But I think Semenya and Evan Nilsson are the 2 to go for, isn't it? Bradders says, hi James, if you had to have one of Rodgers or any Man United midfielder this week on free hit, which would you have? Again, money, no object. I'd probably go for Bruno Fernandes. Joshua says, will Achampong start for Chelsea? Probably not. I expect Tosin Adarabioyo to come back in. Joe Pickle says, you going to the Etihad tomorrow, James? Yes, I'll be on a train early doors. How many we putting past you? Thinking about Haaland captain on free hit, but will your boys be solid, you reckon? Who knows, right? We play like we did against PSG. We're going to give you a tough afternoon. We play like we played against Bayern Munich in the friendly before that. We'll get absolutely annihilated, mate. Can't tell you which it'll be. Just the dad posting stuff. I went mad and took a -4 to do Palmer and Watkins to Reinders and Haaland captain this week. Thought Palmer didn't look at it and Villa had no creativity. May regret those moves, but play it your way. Greg says, hi James, do you think the first we see as a start for Arsenal in game week 4? Not necessarily. because I don't think we could rule out, particularly if Liverpool got a right back issue, I don't think we could rule out Eze just going straight in at Liverpool next week, because Liverpool might not see that coming. So I don't think we should rule that out. Spooky Sorcerer says, hi James, which two to bench from Nico, Richards, Anderson, Esteve, Porro, and Keenan Dewsbury Hall? Ignore if all on benching dilemmas. They are all except for Richards, and I'd put Richards at the top of that probably. There you go. Diljit07 says, good luck with jury service. All I can say is take a charged phone and a good book. Lots of sitting around doing nothing. Give the stream a like, guys, and have a good weekend. Oh, yeah, the Pebble, we call it, the additional charger for the phone is handy. Cizen says start two. Porro, Dogu, Anderson. They're all on the bench in dilemmas, mate. I think they are. Check. Yes, they are. Frederick Hertz is on a free hit. Would you prefer Palmer and Adingra or Cucurella and Watkins? Getting the money for Palmer by downgrading Watkins to Goo and Cucurella to Achiampong and benching both. I prefer the Cucurella and Watkins option. LP says, hi James, I heard you discussing a Raw during the week. Similar issue as a concert owner. Would you play Porro over him or risk the 1 pointer? That's a tough one, that. I've got Smith in my predicted Bournemouth flying up. That's tough, that. I'd go Porro, I think. Yeah, I think that's probably the right decision. I'm afraid. Sorry. Jay Lee says, can you make a challenge team? I'd rather watch paint dry, mate. I wouldn't know what the challenge is. Gazman says, afternoon, James. Good luck this week, as always. Could you please pick the best combo this week? I've gone Watkins over Evan Nielsen for context. Palmer, Saka, Sarr. I assume that's Ishmaela. Versus Palmer, Bruno, Semenyo. Palmer, Saka. Patrick Gordon says, hi, James. Team like yours, but with Frimpong. I know my free hit team, but haven't activated yet. I did Frimpong to Cucurella yesterday. Would you still free hit and take the 0.1 and extra transfer needed next week? Sorry, mate. You've right confused me there. I know my free hit team, but haven't activated yet. I did Frimpong to Cucurella yesterday. Would you still free hit and take the 0.1 and extra transfer needed next week? My goodness, mate. I wouldn't be deciding what to do with a free hit chip based on 0.1, mate. If you were going to free hit. If you weren't, don't. Erosmi Leche, which says, hello, James. Ignored if it's on the bench in dilemmas. Would you start the Bravka over Sanchez? No. And the Kuiper over Pedro Porro. Both of those two are there. Kofcom, what would be the perfect free hit team look like? And good luck, everyone. Well, I obviously think it's mine. Otherwise, I'd have picked a different one. These questions are so funny. It's not personal. I'm just saying, what's the perfect free hit team? Right, I've used every penny I've got. So clearly, you're all entitled to disagree, and I'm sure most of you will. Clearly, I think that on the screen is the best team. Otherwise, I would have picked a different one. Jack Cohen says, afternoon, James. Hope you and yours are well. Start one of Porro Williams on the bench in dilemmas. Have we got the message here yet on these Pedro Porro questions, guys? I've lost my place in the questions now. I will find it. Steve is next, I know. Steve Jones. Hi, James. Who would you sell Frimpong for from -4 to complete bench boost? Don't think I'd do that, mate. I mean, if you are going to do that and do that now, I would go Gabriel. Gabriel or 8 Nori. Or Cucurella. You've got Gabriel or 8 Nori, mate. But I'm not sure I'd be taking a -4 to bench boost in a single game week, mate. It might just be, okay, there's another opportunity. Paul Evans says, as a Haaland owner, I've captained Bruno Fernandes. Am I being too aggressive early on? Thoughts, please, James. Thanks. It's not for me to dictate how you feel about the aggressiveness of your play, mate. I just have a hashtag, and you probably know what it is by now. I wish you luck. Jacob Frost says, I have Porro, Van der Ben, Mickey Van der Ben, Mickey Van der Ben. Steve, Milenkovic, and Konsa postponed. Just roll and bench VDV or make a transfer. Roll. Because I'd be very conscious that you've only got, you've got two 5.5s. Again, the setups with a 6 million, I think, are better, Jacob. It's not to say there's nothing wrong with your setup, but I have a personal preference that a 6 million should be there. Frederick Orr says, love all the content. Good luck with your free hit. Thank you. Good luck to you too. Thomas Thornton says, I've heard if you don't hit the like, your whole team will get sent off and miss a penalty. That would be quite something, wouldn't it? 11 players all getting sent off straight after they miss a penalty. It's about 30% of you guys that smash a like. Doesn't cost anything. It'd be truly, truly appreciated. And stop not telling your friends about Planet FPL as well. Like, there's literally no reason. I mean this genuinely seriously. Oh, I don't want to tell people about Planet FPL. He's all right out, James. My FPL history is shite. Tell your friends about the channel. Sorry for the kids watching live. Shout out to those in the Warwick Arms if you're watching this week. Lewis Hodgins says, would you bench boost Dubravka, Estev, Richards, Mark Go? No. Hello, Stavros. Hope you're well. LFC BSFC says, start sales of Dubravka, both on the bench in dilemmas. Matt Smith says, bench one of Mateta, Verts, Gakpo, Ekitike. Verts again reluctantly. Bellon says, Haaland / Saka, unbiased opinion on captaincy. Good luck in your team's game, nevertheless. Thank you. On the captaincy preferences, so it's Gyökeres, Haaland, Saka for me. That will rotate with the correct score predictions. You'll see my 10 preferences. They are in order. CRS27, hey James, hope all's well. You too. JP says, why captain choice tactically? What's your thinking? There's a couple of things that's inspired it. And again, it's one game in narratives, isn't it? I think the Ampadu injury is the biggest one. That's the biggest thing at play here for me. That moved me when I heard that news yesterday and thought, oh, that's a problem. I actually think Leeds might go back 5 now. And the predicted lineup I've got is basically a 5-4-1/5-2-3. You could read that either way. Oh, space, tough, back 5. Or, oh, Arsenal put more crosses into the area because it's against 3 big centre-backs and they've now got a target. I think it could play into his hands. I think it might not. I said right at the start, shite last week, really, when he came on. But I think ultimately as well, I sit back and I go, right, I've not picked on that. Oh, I think he'll score. I think he'll don't. If you said to me, which one's more likely to blank this week between Gyökeres and Haaland, I'd say Gyökeres. But if you said, and again, I said this on the weekend and it might bite me, one of them is going to go mental this week, I actually think Gyökeres is the more likely. And that's where my decision is at, is to play the game that way. Tom Armitage says, Porro Fulkrug, J. Barker, sorry. Evening, James. Is Cunha and Bumo on free hot? It's a free hot overkill. Trying to chase explosive players, also considering and die over Rodgers for the first game at the Hilly Dick. No, we've really poo-pooed the Illiman and Die train, haven't we? And saw nothing on Monday to suggest that should be back under consideration. So no, Rodgers for me. I get it. He's on pens. Listen, Jay, it free hits your team, right? So if you've got a strong feeling for Manchester United this weekend, you want to go for those 2 players, crack on, mate. I certainly can't sit here and go, oh, they're bad picks, mate. Prescience says, hi, James. Thoughts on Rutter's minutes? Better to sell for Anderson, Forest? If I was sitting there with Jorginho Rutter at the moment, I wouldn't sell this week. No. I mean, what you said into, oh, I want Anderson's 4 points this week. Come on. Let's stick with Rutter for this week. I get next week walks into Man City. All right, it's another week of the transfer window open. Okay, let's assess differently. But I'd hold on to Rutter this week in most scenarios. Joshua says, hi James, will Anchimpong start for Chelsea? I feel like I've already answered this one, mate. I don't want to see it again. Joy Boy says, does Rodri being back fit affect Rangers' minutes? No. No, I don't think so. I think Rodri being back is good for Rangers in terms of passing through lines, and obviously very importantly, feels even more comfortable to let Rangers do the things that clearly he's good at. So, no, can only be a good thing. Spooky Sorcerer, why no Sanchez on bench in dilemma? Start him over Dubravka. Yeah, I didn't put him there, mate, because I'm going to say start him. Like, here's what I figured, right? So, teams I'm predicting for clean sheets this week. Chelsea, Manchester City, Bournemouth, Sunderland. So, I figured that none of you would have Sanchez and Trafford, or Sanchez and Petrovic, or Sanchez and Rofes. So I assumed that if anybody was going to ask me, I would just be like, yeah, Sanchez plays. So there's my answer. And that's why he's not on the bench in dilemmas. Prashan says, hi, I've done that one. Greg Levine Rosenvein. What a great name. Says, good luck, James. Thanks for the content. You're very welcome, Greg. Vivek Gore says, who would you replace from Concert and Diouf for Dorgo? I presume this is a transfer sell. Diouf, that might sound backwards, but again, see, the thing is that I don't know what your rotation is like, right? So how much do you use Consa? If you're going to sit there and go, oh, I'm not going to use Consa at all in the next 7 weeks, then might sell him, innit? Ricardo says, start Josh King or stack Josh King. Mazin Mohammed says, start and die or wood. Sam Watson says, Verts for Semenyo, James. Have 1 free transfer, just roll. Roll for me, I think. I'd just try, if I didn't free hit, would I have considered that move this week? No, probably not. John D says, hi James, after last week I've heard Fulkrug might not start tonight against Chelsea. Should I start Dewsbury Hall instead? No, but let's obviously keep an eye on news. Look, I said in pre-season that I felt that Callum Wilson was more suitable to Potter's style than Fulkrug. And I'd be aware of that, but I wouldn't be fretting at this moment. Jesus Christ. A fucking wife has just messaged me and it says Smith Rowe instead of Reinders or leave. No, play Rudolph, love. We all got that, didn't we? A cheap joke. Sorry. Who's next? Chris Koo says start Porro and Nico Williams on the bench in dilemmas. You have Mateta, no attackers from City. Okay, yeah, I can understand the confliction on that. Maybe Porro then. Theo2303, hey James, would you start Porro Stev, bench in dilemmas? Alden Björk says, evening James, which 2 to bench out of Dorgo, Porro and Murillo? Who to bench out of Reinders and Saar? Wouldn't be benching Reinders. Also, would you bench boost with that bench? Oh, now I've got to work out what it is. My bench goalkeeper this week is Verbruggen. So you got Verbruggen, Saar, and then 2 from Porro. So you could be looking here. I would play Murillo. Verbruggen, Dorgu, Porro, Ismail Assar. Just I can't see the rest of your team, Alden. Just have a double check yourself on game weeks 3 and 4. I think particularly use FPL team for that or an alternative. But I'm going to say yes. Again, I can't see the rest of your team to know if you've got anything there that's like a concern. You know what I mean? Like, I'm playing Matthias Nunes and might get like a 0 minutes, right? That would be problematic. But otherwise, I think it looks all right, mate. But there's always a danger that I'm advising I can't see the rest of your team, mate. Bellon says, oh, great visuals. Thank you, mate. That's the brilliant FPL captain as per usual. Shout out, Chris. Hope you're well, buddy. Sigurd Coolseng says, start Harry Wilson or Elliot Anderson. It's an interesting one. Harry Wilson. Taylor says, how confident are you on a Trafford start? Cheers. 75%. I think just be harsh that he was perfectly fine in goal last week. Be harsh if he didn't play again. It's more my take. And I think City are open to potentially Ederson going with these Donnarumma links. So, it'd be strange if Ederson went back in goal and then they bought Donnarumma and was Donnarumma next week. Or I think Trafford will play. I'm not that fussed about it if he doesn't. Jack Wellen says, would you start Porro and Murillo this week? Murillo. Martin Lancelot says, we're about 18 minutes from deadline, by the way, guys. Martin says, what are the chances of either Eze or Gay playing this weekend? Thinking of transferring Eze to Sahar. Sahar? It's got to be Saka, isn't it? Or could it be someone else? And bench boosting. Vertonghen. This is a blast from the past here. I have to assume that's for Bruggen. Tonali, Wan-Bissaka, Van der Ben. There's got to be a better week for that, mate. Eze won't play. Gay, as it stands, will play for Palace on Sunday. Tangerine Chris says 2 to play. For Bruggen, sorry, mate. I've lost you. I'll find you. Tangerine Chris, two to play. For Bruggen / Petrovic. Petrovic with the fixtures. Porro de Kuiper on the bench boost. Wasn't convinced by Petrovic against anything low down last week, but 2 Brighton feels like a bad idea after double clean wipe out bench boost last week. So there you go, Petrovic de Kuiper. Martin King says, get locked in 15 minutes for deadline. They done an update today. Lol. Good luck, James. Thanks, Martin. Who's the risk? What are you talking about? Reinders? It's not a risk, babe. Just play him. Smith Rowe didn't start last week. My missus wiped the floor with me last week, by the way, and I didn't help. The first year, I didn't help her at all. You remember she sent me the team when I was doing the stream. I was like, it's all right, actually. And she went Haaland and Salah. Phil Curtis, crazy. Captain Rice, genuinely tempted. No Salah or Haaland. You got your reasons, Phil. I can't see what the rest of your team is, but it doesn't feel necessary to me. David H says, hey, James, who are your top 3 4.5 million defenders for the next 6 to 8 weeks? 4.5s. Konsa, genuinely. Truffer. I know I've gone Diakite this week. That's because I'm aiming for the one-off. But if I was buying, I probably would go Truffer. Tossing has a risk element to it. Anything beyond game week 3, because I do think Chelsea buy. Joachim Anderson's fine. The answer here really lies very much in when do you need it, right? There's some weeks where like Agbadu's got good fixtures. Like, there's like, do you need for like game week 3 and 5? I go Agbadu, right? If it's 4 and 5, it's like it's Anderson. Like, it feels like the answer is that rather than this is the best one, mate. Conography says free hit. He's given me the team. I can't be bothered, but I wish you luck. Mark Wright says, hi, James. Play Nico Williams or Dewsbury Hall, please. Best of luck with your free hit. I probably would Dewsbury Hall. He's on a lot of the set plays, isn't he? Reece Rudd, do you think... I've done that one, mate. It's bored of it. Marcus Lewis says, hey, James, should I downgrade Gabriel to Calafiori to afford Trafford? Don't feel good going with Dubravka on a free hit. Okay, so this is a free hit. Okay. There is a chance that the Scally plays. This is the problem. I think I said on one of the bits earlier this week that if I knew with certainty that Calafiori would play, then I'd go there myself. But I'm not certain of it. So for me, it's a no. If he starts, then it is what it is. Paul Evans wants everyone to smash a like. Let's do a like count. We're getting there. A bit better. Yeah. Coming up towards 40% of you or so. Better. Thanks, guys. JMA 543. Love your free hit team, James. 10-11 the same as mine. My budget is 0.5 less than yours due to price rises. So would you recommend starting De Kuiper at Champong or another non-Bournemouth 4.5? Trying to think what I with me and my team, what I'd have done if I needed that 0.5 and had not got Reinders and Semenyo in for this early, I think I just would have gone Adebayo over Chalobah, I think. I would be surprised if Tosin Adebayo did not play for Chelsea tonight against West Ham. Bebu, hi James, hope all is good, mate. Your wild card looks great, mate. You got to remember, mate, you put 15 names there. Firstly, it's so much more difficult to read in capital letters. Secondly, by the time I've read 5 or 6 names and then I get on to the next 5 or 6, I've forgotten the first 5 or 6, mate. So the only thing I've got to say is good luck, mate. Rate my teams is not me, mate. There's plenty of tools out there for that. Johnny Egg says Marinakis is going to make him an offer he can't refuse. Dan, to me, I'll take the Forest job, yeah, but I'm busy when Spurs are playing. Dan J. Majan says, hi James, after Concer Red playing VDV, that's Van der Ven today, as 4.0 is Rodon. Should I transfer in a Sunderland defender, replace 4.5 Concer? Your suggestions? Again, if you intend to use Concer a lot in future weeks, I'd hold on to it, suck it up, right? Don't try not to make your first transfer on like a 4.0 or 4.5 defender. It's not that deep or that important, mate, particularly with the DEFCONs now. Tottenham could get beat 1-0 tomorrow and Van der Ven walks away with a 4-pointer, right? Ben Edinson says, kudos over Richards. Yeah, I mean, Yeah, I would play Mo over most fourth defenders this week, if that kind of makes sense. Ibrahim Yasser says, what about Gordon punt versus Liverpool? Yeah, don't mind it. If someone fancies it. There's definitely a narrative there where it could be a good night for him. Eros Milicevic says, why is Salah so low on your captaincy rankings? He's that low, mate, because I think all the others are better choices. It's easy, this game, isn't it? Well, it's not easy playing it, but it's easy reading the graphics game. Taylor says, how confident are you in Trafford starting? Cheers. Just answered that for someone else, but thank you. Eddie R says, hey, James, thoughts on captain Palmer over Haaland? Heart says Palmer. Head says Haaland. Cheers and come you Spurs. As always, Eddie, it's play it your way, but it would be Haaland for me, mate. HM10 says, hi, James, bench 1. Porro Williams is Stev. They want to bench in dilemmas. David says, Mr. Marinakis is watching you. Woo! Daniel May says, hi, James, huge fan of the show. Don't normally ask benching questions, but I'm really unsure. Esteve or Nico Williams. You'll find both of them on the benching dilemmas. It's below me. It's pages 1 to 4. Sorry, I know 90% of you know this. It's pages 1 to 4. The player with the tick is the preferred option to start. They run in order. Pages left to right. You also find some goalkeepers on page 5. Bebu, no, I can't, mate, but I wish you all the best of luck, mate. I generally, by the way, I don't, even if it wasn't on a stream, when people send me like a wildcard drafts and say thoughts, I'll say, right, so what transfer are you making next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks? Is this player, mate, it's a wild card. It's more than just like a 1 week decision. The most important thing is that you like it. Neil Kager says, 629 watching. Yeah, less 100 likes. Seriously, people come and show some love, respect. Thanks, man. I mean, we're smashing it now. These are older comments, obviously. Who's next? Lost myself. I touch dead pigeons. Fine. Each to their own, right? As a creative, as a job. Why does Goo not play? Do you know? Don't pick the team, mate. But maybe it's not good. Try on. Jane, he's just got there, to be fair. Jane says, bench boost. Williams/Porro. DBH. I'm going to presume that's meant to be Keenan Shrewsbury Hall. And Dubravka, it's a no from me. Yes, BD, I'm on a free hit. Honor says, why are you at court? How many years are you getting? Loads. This will be the last ever Planet FPL Deadline stream. If I tell everyone what's going on. No, I'm on jury service, mate. Scheduled to be till 2nd of September. We'll see what happens. I'm doing my best to try and keep the content going for you lot at the moment. And for me and my own sanity. Ben Edison says, thoughts on the suggestion Saar for Spurs could be a viable FPL asset going forward? If so, will it only be short term? Ben, ask me this question when the transfer window's shut, mate. It's a bit pointless at the moment, mate. Back if we don't buy anyone, it's like, yeah, steam into him at 5, isn't it? Right. JC says, James Trafford won't start. Oh no, tear up my team. Battle Power 777 says, James, would you do kudos to Rangers? I remember you saying earlier this week you'd think about it, but Tottenham's later fixtures make me averse to doing so. Yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, I said that on Monday's pod. Take the kudos points and run. Because the point still stands. And you told me not to go for him and he got 9 points, whatever. The point that I was making was still absolutely right. He does not look like scoring. And even on Saturday, he never looked like scoring. 2 assists from crosses, which were way more about the goal scoring finishing brilliance, unusually, from Richarlison than the actual crossing. It was, oh my God, that cross was undefended. But they weren't. They were behind Richarlison. He had to go and get him, score twice. By the way, Kudus was best player on the pitch. But from a fancy asset perspective, I cannot say this enough. He has not looked like scoring at all in any Tottenham game, in any moment yet. And please, we need him to start scoring goals. So I hope that changes. But I can only tell you what I've seen. And I've seen every minute of Tottenham's game since he joined. Get Carter says, I'm on free at James Truffert or Senasai. I would have gone Truffert at the 2, mate. But I'd go Diakite. Mr. Nyonic says, huge fan of the shows. What do you think of more frequent usage of AI models like FPL Review? Do you use it and how do you see it influencing the game? Much love from Croatia. It's kind of a long answer, but I'll keep it very, very short. No problem with them. I think they're great, amazing tools. Do I use them? No. Are they for me? No. I enjoy the idea of working shit out myself. That's what I love most about this game. It's not what happens at the weekend. It's the process of the managing and the decision. And then once we go in 8 minutes, there's nothing I can do about what happens next. I enjoy the process in the first instance. So this week's been very enjoyable trying to come up with a solution for 11 players, right? So The tools are amazing. The work that guys do to put into these models, sites, etc., are incredible, right? And to be honest, if someone said to me, "Do you think I should use models?" Largely, I would say, "Yeah, do it. Do it." The chances are it's going to make you better at the game. It's not for me personally. That's all. FPL Risk Taker says, "Hi James, I'm also using free hit after boosting the bench boost in Gameweek 1. Nice. AAA says, "I have a similar free hit as you with Cucurella, Ray and Hartman instead of Trafford, Chalobah and Gabriel. Is it viable or do you see any issues?" No, you've picked your preference. Good luck. Jay Wills says, "How do you feel about Spurs and find it difficult to stay positive after this transfer window?" Transfer window ain't closed, mate. Eze, I can't have been clearer about this, was always going to Arsenal if Arsenal came back in for him. It's as simple as that. And I'm sorry if people got their hopes truly up about it. But I even said to my dad on Tuesday, like, it's 85, 90% done. And I refused to think about it because I didn't want that burn afterwards. Because I knew if they come back, he would go to Arsenal and understand it. Ryan Max says, "Hi James, really enjoyed the weekend today. Great stuff as always. Elliot Anderson over Fulkrug." No from me. Taylor says, "How confident are you in the Trafford start?" I've done this already, mate. Once was enough, wasn't it? We're just holding up other people from their answers now. We are about 6 minutes from deadline now, guys, by the way. I'm going to check my Slack community because I should have done this earlier, really. My wife said, "I know best." Oh, how incredible. See if we've got any Chelsea news knocking about. No, shout out to our patrons watching live. Please tag me on Slack if we've got anything. I've got the page open just in case anything comes through. Okay. Team News FPL, I have got something. Thank you, Darren Malloy. No surprises for Chelsea tonight. Sanchez, Cucurella, Palmer all start. So I would read into that. My read into that would be same team, Adarabioyo for Achiampong. That would be my read on that. But that's from, and that's very reliable. Team News FPL, no surprise from Chelsea. Sanchez, Cucurella, Palmer, all start. Footy Matters. "Hey James, why do you think Spurs won't score? Thanks, good luck for the game week. Like the stream, Pete." Because we've got a huge problem scoring goals and creating chances at the moment, mate. Don't be fooled by just the last two games. I wouldn't be surprised if we do, right? Be surprised if we get a result even, but I think the logical prediction here is that we don't. We're short. We're massively short at the moment. We're probably going to play with two attacking players tomorrow, and I've just told you one of them never looks like scoring. Ricardo says, "Start Josh King or Stack." I did that for you earlier on. Sweet Blues. James out here starting wars with comments about Cyprus like it's not Greece, but sorry if that came across that way. It wasn't meant that way. Greece is beautiful. I've not been to Cyprus. That's why it intrigued me. Richard says, "Play Anderson or..." Yeah, do you know what I would do, Richard? I would play or. Ibrahim Yasser says, "Trafford first choice." It's like, how long's a piece of string? Ask Pep. File Fran says, "I'm benching Solanke and playing Diouf instead. Am I being stupid? I just can't take another 1 pointer from Solanke." It probably will be one, in fairness, so I accept that. To be honest with you, I would be selling Solanke, mate. Aditya Fiok says, "Hi James, Salah or Evan Nilsson as captain? Boring versus spicy pick. Really feeling Evan Nilsson." Go on then, I won't put you off. Rene Rocha says, "Hello, where do you realistically believe Jackson ends up?" We're going to predict Aston Villa for shits and giggles. Again, just checking messages in case. I know there's a few people particularly want Adarabioyo news, so I'm just checking in on that. Not got anything. Burley Jr. "Hi James, Verbruggen or Dubravka?" They're on the bench in dilemmas. Esteve Van Dijk, they're on the bench in dilemmas. Good this, isn't it? Wabdin 77 benches Dubravka, Josh King, Dorgu, Roden. Worth activating your view, James. Thanks for the great content, pal. Not from me, mate. There'll be other opportunities, particularly with Rodon. There'll be some other good ones. Look at game week 8 as a possibility with Dubravka and Rodon. Lodgetron says, "I'm playing Dubravka. Would you double up with Esteve or hedge with Ronaldo? I'm going to play one." Yeah, I would play Ronaldo because I think Sunderland win. Guy Swinnerton says, "Ronaldo over Dorgo." Yeah, I'm betting Sunderland for a clean sheet. So yeah, but this feels a bit mad though, admittedly. Thomas Lauren, "Hey James, Porro, Fulkrug, Dubravka, Sells, starting Williams, Sells doesn't matter. Andrew M, Rosen, Diakite or Petrovic and Dorgo. Take the Diakite route." Daniel says, "Might as well give Palmer to game week 6 as then it's an easy move to Saka for Arsenal's good fixtures." Yep, potentially. But I want Palmer back in 9. That's the only thing to factor in that. And I might want Haaland in for 6. So there's a few different things there. Richard's come back. Plan Anderson or Dorgu. They're both on the bench in dilemmas. This we got there. The Manu Tadic says Rodgers and Evan Nilsson or Watkins and Tav. Evan Nilsson, route, mate. Angelo 1234 says, hi James, any Chelsea leaks? If I've got anything, I'll share it. Guys, for the patrons and Slack, check your sources, guys. Check your sources. Scott Parker, would you bench boost Dubravka, Milenkovic, King, and Goodmanson? No. Again, check Gameweek 8. Sebwa says, hi James, what are your thoughts on Ben White as a way into Arsenal defence now that we know Timber is having minutes managed? Yeah, but we also think Ben White missed training earlier this week, so I actually think Timber will play. Battle Power, yes, I would move Kudos to Rangers, I've been clear. Michael Hare says, hi James, you have Watkins over Salah for captaincy, but would you captain Watkins if you had Kelleher in goal? Hope you have a good game week and up the Spurs. That the captaincy decision is way more important than the goalkeeper decision, mate. So yes, absolutely. Chris Calloway says, thoughts on Tavernier on a free hit. Also, your Gyökeres captaincy makes me want to go for him now that I've seen Haaland is the early fixture. Well, the early fixture's tonight, isn't it? Right. So Gandhi will be fine, won't he? Or is it 12:30 still? That's a problem. I don't know. Yeah, look, 1 week, Tavernier, Scott, as I said, like, but they're not the best of it. It's like, I can't quite get Semenyo. That's like what it feels like. Pasky says, start Rutter or Gakpo, start one. I would still go Gakpo because I think he starts. Personal opinion. 1 minute to deadline, guys. Nothing extra to additionally give you on Chelsea. Martin says, hi James, why's your take on Solanke's situation? Started season with him, but now worried after Frank's comments about Richarlison being number 9. Richarlison's been outstanding in the last 2. Please read into exactly what Thomas Frank said. Richarlison is the number 9. That will change either when the European games start or probably when Richarlison gets injured after 20 minutes tomorrow. Fingers crossed he doesn't. Tag says, I have Chelsea defence. Do I play Paquetá or sell for maximum upside? It's 1 game week after the original decision. Deadline has hit, guys. Thank you very much. I got through, well, a lot of you. Sorry to those I didn't get through. I did my best. But thank you to all of you who did contribute to the questions. If you came just for the FPL stuff, smash a like, hit the sub button, have a good weekend. But you may want to stay to hear what the content looks like for next week. For those of you who got non-FPL questions, want to hang around 15 minutes or so till sort of the Chelsea lineups are out, I'm happy to do a few questions up until then. Content next week. It's a little bit up in the air in the sense be jury service and my availability. But there'll be content like normal. There won't be content Monday. It is a bank holiday here in the UK. I intend to spend that with my family and we'll be doing so. Tuesday, Game Review podcast. Me and Suj will be recording early before I go to jury service. So it should actually be out. Video not, but audio could be out as early as about 10 o'clock, maybe even on Tuesday. I don't know which way round Wednesday and Thursday is going to be yet, but one will be Ask James and the other will be Clash of the Correspondents, Liverpool versus Arsenal with Dan Lord and Adam Pritchard, and the weekender with myself on David on Friday. I don't know yet the exact schedule for the Patreon podcasts and the additional content for advanced tier patrons, but it will all still go ahead as it still all went ahead this week. I just need to work out exactly what that's going to look like. If you'd like to support the show or can support the show, it's www.patreon.com/planetfpl. Please support the show because you want to help support us in our content, and particularly me because it's my full-time job. Or if you want access to the additional content. No one promises to make you a better FPL manager, but my planner will probably help. From basic tier, you have access to no ads and early release content. All the content that gets released, except for live streams, gets posted on Patreon before it gets posted to the public. From basic plus tier, you have access to mini league, Slack channel, and 1 additional podcast a week. Intermediate plus gets you to all the podcasts and a bit of advanced tier content each week. Advanced tier gets you all the additional advanced tier content with myself, including a weekly Zoom call, though I must be honest and promise you that I can't promise to have a Zoom call next week. I couldn't promise one this week. I found an hour at 11 o'clock this morning. We did that Zoom call. Bit of conflict with the jury service. Right. But if you can support the show, it's www.patreon.com/planetfpl. If you want a taster of what Planet FPL Patreon looks like at 7 o'clock tonight. Sign up as a free member. You do not have to pay. And you will see the best bits from our week of content, giving you little clips from all the little bits of content we did on Patreon this week. It includes possibly the funniest 3 minutes of Planet FPL content of all time on yesterday's quiz, where Clayton made me laugh so hard I genuinely could not speak. That's available to free members, and that'll be out for you at 7 o'clock. So at the end of this stream, probably be about 20 minutes or so long. Get a flavour of what patrons like. And if you like what you see, sign up. If you don't, you've got it for free. The best bits is available for free members every single week. If you can afford to support us, we'd love to have you on board. Right, that's the big sell. Thank you very much. If you're disappearing for the weekend and to watch the football, I hope you have a great weekend. Smash a like, hit the sub button. Thank you all for your support. If anyone's got any non-FPL, throw it in the chat, and I'm more than happy to cover some bits off. Thank you, Sebwa. I'm not going to do any more FPL. Thank you, Christopher. Thank you, Pushkar. Thank you, SW6 Uproar. Pushkar says, want to understand your thoughts on owners' involvement and visibility in football operations on the back of Nuno and Forest. Excuse me. Did we have any such cases in history? Excuse me. Pushkar, can you elaborate on... Feel free, I'll get to your question. Just elaborate on what it is you're looking for me to answer. I'm not sure if you're asking me about the visibility of a chairman. You know, some like Marinakis are well seen and others aren't. I'm not sure if that's the question that you're asking. If you just clarify that, I'll happily answer it for you, mate. Stephen Hutchinson says, evening, James. We spoke about George Abbott last season at Notts County. And he's left the fan fave. We've now got Tyrese Hall on loan, but yet see more than cameos. Any thoughts on him? So Tyrese is very different to George. George, the striking thing about George is he has phenomenal stamina for a young lad. Like, he's got the energy. Almost seems to, when you little bits of seeing him, almost seems to get more powerful when games go on. I don't think he'd be a top level player for us. I don't think, unfortunately, Tyrese will be either. Tyrese is an extremely talented footballer in his mind. He's more of a deep lying player, I would say. Your conductor, if you will. He can run a football match for you. He's kind of almost a little bit Spanish in style, if that makes sense. He's very slight. That's going to be a problem for him. He's not had the development over the last 12 months that I'd hoped. I'd actually hoped that he might have got involved with the first team last year. And despite all the injury issues, he was nowhere near it in terms of consideration. Now, that might have been because, like I said, he's very slight of frame. But you can tell he's got a football IQ. It's just whether it will come along with the pace of the game, the physicality. If you've got playing against teams who just want to go direct and over the top of you over time, you're going to lose the best of him. You've got to get him on it. So keep me in the know, Stephen, because I do like him. He might just get kind of lost in the shuffle, and he might just be someone who's really talented at the game that doesn't maybe make it. He should do. He should at least be a football league player, and he's got the IQ to be a Premier League player, I think, by the way. John Bailey says, now you work full-time in a role within football. Had it had any effect on your enjoyment of football away from your love of Spurs? Yeah. Take Spurs out of it, yeah. If this ever became more important to me than Spurs or stopped my enjoyment of Spurs, and let's be honest, Spurs are very capable of stopping my own enjoyment of Spurs, then I'd have to step back, I think, because that's been my whole life, that football club. In terms of other games, yes, sometimes, because I'd start watching a game and I'm always looking for an angle. So I already know, like with some of the games this weekend, some of the angles that I'm looking for. So tonight, right, did Chelsea set up any differently, right? Is Palmer going to get himself more in these right half spaces and play to the right of Fernandez? Did Chelsea go with a line of 6 or a line of 5 up front? There are stories like that on the games I know I'm going to watch this weekend, right? What do Leeds look like now that we know they're probably going to go to the Emirates and have 30% of the ball? The Brighton play with Rutter and O'Reilly split, or with one in front and one behind? What's the impact of Palace? No Eze. What's the mood of Forest after Nuno's comments today, right? How do Liverpool deal with this problem that they've been having in pre-season, also the right back issue? I know some of the narratives around some of the games I'm going to watch this weekend before I get there. And then quickly, when you watch games, you can find that those narratives are right, wrong, or you find different things quickly that you want to talk about. For me, the main thing when I watch a football match in the Premier League now, except when I'm watching Tottenham, is to know what that story that is that I want to tell you guys on a Monday or this week or Tuesday. That I'm always looking for an angle. Therefore, I don't get lost in many games anymore. That's why I mentioned it a few times, like the Chelsea Man City 4-4 a few years ago. It was like, sod all the tactics and all this. This is just amazing. Can you get yourself off it, James, and just enjoy the football? And I probably don't enjoy it as much anymore, I think. But then I also think that's not an implication necessarily of my work. It's an implication of also football losing its innocence, I think. And football's lost a lot of innocence. So many... Social media's done a lot of this anyway, but the way the game's gone tactically, the end result becomes so important. And I think from that perspective, football's lost a lot of its innocence. That's why people love the stories like Leicester, right? Because it's like, what's the chance it ever happens again, right? So my enjoyment of football isn't quite the same, but obviously still enjoy it, right? Because I said I'd watched probably 8 of the games last weekend, and I did. And this weekend will probably be the same. I'll watch the game tonight. I'll be at the Etihad. I will probably record Arsenal and probably watch it once I get home, probably Saturday night. There's a chance I'm going to go out Sunday, so I might be watching all 3 games on a delay on the Sunday. I'll obviously watch the Monday night football. So what's that? 6. I'll probably get 7 this weekend. So I feel if I didn't enjoy watching them, let's be honest, there have been some weekends, particularly towards the end of the season, I wasn't watching as much. And most people can't tell. So I can still find a narrative without watching it. But I think particularly early in the season, it feels very important to me to find the stories, assess the new players, different managers, different systems, etc. So has it had a bit of an enjoyment? Yes, but please don't feel sorry for me, John. I'm definitely not sitting here going, I hate watch football, because I could choose not to, and I could probably still get away with doing the Gameweek review, right? It's just, for me, it's an old comment I made years ago. It's like, if Sheffield United's left back breathes the wrong way, I need to know about it. That's how I feel about each player in this league. Super Sam Play says, bit random, James, but remember you did a piece with Clayton last season on Shamrock Rovers. Yes, they won at Santa Clara last night. I'm a season ticket holder there, and we are on the verge of another Conference League group stage. Irish football's on the up. Yes, it is. And next week on the Weekender, we might have a look at some of those European results in a bit more detail. I know Mainz lost last night in their first leg. Admittedly, it was away, so they could turn it around. And Strasbourg drew as well. Strasbourg, not such a big deal. But Mainz losing could be a really big deal for the coefficient for England, actually. That's what I say. The Palace is the most important game for the English coefficient this year. Can't have them go out. If you want 5th next year, you want Palace to go through. Thomas Power says, not say it can't still be, by the way. Thomas Power says, hi, James. If you were given the Forest job, who would be your assistant fitness coach, analyst, and under 23s coach out of the current Premier League managers? Wow, what a question. Assistant. Shit. The thing is, you're putting managers into that role. Awkward. They have to be someone you liked, you could get on with as well. I think that's important. Who would I take as assistant manager? Yeah, it's so tough, that. I've drawn to a lot of the names. I don't just want to say Thomas Frank. I'm going to say Unai Emery. That's not me saying he's the best manager in the league. I'm trying to think of maybe my own weaknesses in some of the things I see. Analyst. I'm going to say analyst. Jeez. Analyst. Pep. That's right, isn't it? I think. Under 23s coach. I want something that can develop strong. Under 23s coach. I'm going to say Andoni Iraola. King Amanda's Law says, describe your perfect burger. It's got a lot in it. No, you can't have too much. I'm not that fussy, relatively plain. I'm not like a massive cheese head, but stick some in there. Smash burger, cheese. Smash it in. Burger sauce. I don't want too much else in, man. You know? No. Northern, turn your shit up, mate.
I can make it louder if you want.
Attaboy says, would love to hear your thoughts on Spurs transfer targets currently and your favourites. Thank you for the question. I'm tired of talking about it. And I'm going to skip purely because I can point you in the direction of the weekend of this morning and say that I spoke about players being linked with Tottenham at that point. In terms of favourites, there's some players there that I don't know a lot about. I lost a load of questions here. Sorry. So I ended up with one much later on. D.80, in terms of changing your career path into content, how stressful was that? You have a family, which is a huge responsibility. Did it feel like a gamble? How hard was it to make the bold decision? Well, you have to remember that when I started the podcast, I didn't have a son, right? So kind of the decision was only really me. And the decision was for me because it was something I enjoyed and loved, right? So I always say that I'm very, very blessed to have that. So it wasn't a difficult decision. It wasn't stressful. I think that I work as hard as I've ever worked in terms of the mental side of it. We can relate to physical, but mental, I find it difficult to switch off. It's a weakness. But I also really enjoy what I do. So it's not, I don't wake up and wake up, oh, fucking hell, do you know what I mean? I don't. It's like me and David were prepping yesterday to do the weekender for like a 7:30 a.m. start in case I had to be in jury service for like 10 o'clock this morning. We didn't know. And David, bless him, had been so flexible. Me and Suj can do 8 a.m. next Tuesday before I go to jury service because now I know what time I start. But we were looking at going 11 o'clock at night or 6 o'clock in the morning. Now, with our lives and families, like you said, it's not really suitable, right? But I could just sit here and go, John, what, guys, sorry, I got jury service. I can't do content next week. What would happen? What's the worst thing that would happen? Some people, well, he's not doing regular content at the start of the season. But most of you enjoy the content. I would like to think, as long as the content's still good, we'll go, okay, I understand that, James. See you in a week or two, right? That's probably where it'd be at. If you're watching this bit of content right now and you're still here, it's because you're thinking about the content beyond just FPL, right? So what's the worst that happened? And I could have done that. I've got jury service. I can't do podcasts. Such wouldn't make me do it. It's me makes me do it, right? So I enjoy it. Thomas Thornton says, I kept switching my subs and saving because I couldn't decide. The site stayed open until 6:34 or so. Wow. Which team's in with it? Let's see what we got. In your own time, Twitter. Yeah, what we thought. The lap starts. He's left out Gittins. And Gusto is in for Reece James. So I'll read all this team out. That's interesting, that. So this will put the brakes on Cucurella tonight, by the way, guys. He's going to play deeper. So Sanchez, Gusto, Chalobah, Toss, and Cucurella. So Gusto will push on. Probably hit the flank. That'll explain a lot of João Pedro and Delap both playing. You got Casado, Enzo Fernandez, Neto, Palmer, João Pedro, Delap. I tell you what I think that'll be on that line. I think João Pedro will play off the right. I think Neto will play off the left. And I think João Pedro will drift from the right in the way Nkunku was doing in some of them Club World Cup games. And Delap will play as the 9. That's not great for João Pedro owners. I see a few people around. It's Palmer right wing. It could be. It could be that. Yeah, it could be Palmer right wing, João Pedro at 10. I think that'll be João Pedro off the right, though. That's my instinct. West Ham. One change, and it is Rodriguez come out, which is what I'd had, but it's not Potts who's coming, it's Souček who's coming to the team. So West Ham is Hermanson, Wan-Bissaka, Taribo, Kilman, Aguerd, Diouf, Souček, Ward-Prowse, Paquetá, Bowen, and Fulkrug. So, like, intrigued. You know what we spoke about earlier about narratives for this game starts? Right, so now I've got my new narrative ready to go, see what that looks like. I'm going to be here all night, I can see this, and she's going to fucking kill me. When are you going to be home for dinner, mate? By the way, not that my wife calls me mate, just for clarity. Right, I'm going to do these really quick fire. Kevin 1234, I can see is the last one. I will go through all of these, but I'm going to do them relatively quickly, so apologies. Dan Butler, riff at Forest is Nuno Edo. Seems unfixable. Could Forest go and get a Carsley or Iriola or Silva? Right, piss off Palace. They went for Glasner, wouldn't it? Marco Silva, I could see. Ange was a name that was getting mentioned earlier today. Mark says, if you were travelling for next summer's World Cup, would you prefer to see England's matches in Canada, US, or Mexico? I won't be. Mexico, I think. I think so. Azteca. Historic, right? I think it's at Mexico. Jared, 1993. Not an FPL question, but if Newcastle were going to offer 60 million to Wolves for Strand Larson, why don't they consider Watkins, who would most likely be available for the same price? You'd have to ask them, mate. I think it's a very good question. But also understand that Villa don't want to sell Watkins, right? And at least with Strand Larson and his age, what have you got? Sell on. Watkins, no. So Larson's still pretty young, I think. Don't quote me on that, but I think he's still pretty young. Watkins, no sell on. So that's a big thing. Kira's 95. What would be a good season for Tottenham United, respectively? For me as a United fan, I'd be happy with any sort of European football after the disastrous season we just had. Yeah, I think fifth it's not necessarily going to be, but could end up wide open. And therefore, I think that's probably should be the target. And fifth, 80% will be Champions League again, most likely. So that should be the target. I think for United, that should, with no European football and the additions made, I think qualifying for European football, and I understand the conservative opinion on this. I don't think you're particularly wrong, but I think that United's target this year should be minimum that, personally. And I think Tottenham have to target that as well. But he's complicated by the squad issues at the moment, and also we have the European football. So qualifying for Europe for both would be acceptable. It doesn't necessarily mean that not doing it means sack the manager. I think in United's case, that would be serious questions asked. I don't think that's the case in necessarily for Tottenham, subject to what happens in the cup competitions. Elron Cupboard, who would you choose to replace Pep when the time comes? Arteta, get him out of Arsenal. I know a lot of Arsenal fans would go for that, but Luis Enrique, mate. Fog, although there is a case to say that City would be much better off just going to a completely different style, like an Iriola style, something completely different maybe for a little bit, because it will be hard to proceed as normal. Fog Factor says, do you have any soft spots for lower league teams? Have you ever been to any lower league grounds, and if so, how was it? Lots, watching Tottenham obviously, but I would say I look out for some of the local teams, so Leyton Orient, Barnet, right down the pyramid, Enfield Town. Affinity with any of them, no, not particularly, but I look out for them and hope that they do well. Attaboy says, would love to hear I've done that one. Thoughts on Spurs? Yeah, bored. Sorry. Milan Dog, do you think Spurs should have just went for Eze right away and get the deal done, even if it takes extra 5-10 minutes to do it, instead of that mess with Gibbs White? Cheers, buddy. Again, I kind of covered this on the weekend. It's quite early in the podcast, and it'll be timestamped, right? There's a period we talk about Eze, so I just recommend having a bit of that. For everyone else, I'm going to be repeating what I said earlier, I think, but thank you. God, where are we? Lost. We're on a road to nowhere. Steve Greenwell says, if you were to give Mo Salah a world rank, what would it be? I nearly said that wrong. Has he been number one in the last 5 years? Do you think his country of origin hurts his standing? It does, whether we like it or not. In the sense that it's not a major nation. I don't think that the playing for the African nation isn't important, right? In terms of that holding it back, it's how good that nation is. Now, one of the best in Africa, right? But in terms of then the eyes of people in Europe and the world, that maybe they're not seeing as much. How many people actually are watching AFCON, say? Egypt's involvement in the World Cup has been periphery, I think it's fair to say. Like they haven't killed it when they've been in. Obviously, he's not part of the Euros. He has obviously won the Champions League with Liverpool. His consistency is wild. It's got to be the best goal-scoring wide man the Premier League's ever seen. I think when you put it into that context, that is... There's not many better things you can say than that. So would he rank within the top 5 players in the world consistently over the last 5 years or so? Probably yes. Yeah, I think that would be fair. I don't think he's had an amazing 2025. He did have an obscene period in 2024, right? But yeah, he would be worthy of that. He's been the best player for one of the best teams in Europe over that period. So I'm sure if you ask a Liverpool fan, they go, yeah, he'd be in there, right? In nearly all cases. Pushkar, thank you, Uproar. Pushkar says, we have very rarely seen an owner like Marinakis walk on the field post-game, hug players in the tunnel, show emotions towards the manager. I think it's not healthy for the football on the pitch. So, look, I would say about this, and we spoke about it quite a bit when that incident after the Leicester game happened, is that for us, this is our general reaction because it's not normal, right? So when something happens on a football pitch, you're like, that shouldn't happen. It's out of character. But it's not necessarily on some places on the continent. And I think that we should remember that sometimes. So do I look at it for, like if Daniel Levy did it, I would be like, oh my God, what are you doing? What are you doing? Under that circumstance, the only time it's acceptable, really, in my opinion, is when a trophy's been won at the end. And arguably, that's not necessarily acceptable either. If you do it, you at least need to be in the background, not at the front. But I also understand with certain people, you know, I think of like Dave Whelan's impact at Wigan, for example, is like, yeah, do you know what? I don't know if he was involved in the celebrations on the pitch, but if he was, like, good luck to him. Slightly different. It leaves an uncomfortable feeling, but I also think for Marinakis, that's normal. Okay? And I think we should also acknowledge that for him, that's not that abnormal. I saw a video posted after the Brentford game. He's waiting for them all in the tunnel. Like, he's obviously very passionate about it. That's not normal for a chairman either, right? And that was out of sight. That was something just posted by Forest. So he's a bit different. Elron Cupboard says, pretty sure Berlusconi used to rock up at the Milan training ground in a helicopter. Another Hoot says, all right, mate, going Fulham away Sunday. What's the ground and area like? Catching a train to and from Putney Bridge Station, if you know it. Yeah. You're to Putney Bridge, you're going tube, probably. A few boozers, you probably go in near actual Putney Station. So that's overground. But I imagine, I'm guessing if you're United, you'd probably be going to a tube station. Understand that. There's a pub when you come out of Putney Bridge Station that's designated for away fans. But it might be silly busy. Depends what time you get there and stuff. Alternatively, one of the unique things about Fulham, like if the weather's nice, and it should still be all right, is you can have a beer in the ground and you are outside, in the sense that the way the stand is built, you are, when you're on the concourse, you are outside. So if you go towards the far end of the concourse, if you will, you're outside and you're standing next to the Thames and stuff. So Fulham's not the worst one to go in the ground early and have a drink if that pub near the station is too busy. If you meant Putney Station rather than Putney Bridge, there's a few pubs around there you can probably go in as long as you haven't got your colours on, I'd say. There's loads of places around there. DTAF says, thanks for the content, James. Do you play Super 6? If so, I assume you use the same score predictions on screen. We might be sharing the jackpot this week, buddy. I'll piss off. That's not funny, mate. Matt Martin says, is there a lower league team that you root for? As I said, I keep an eye on the local ones, but no, there's no change to my life. Marcus Lewis says, went Gordon instead of Semenyo, Adingra instead of Tajani. Good luck, mate. Good luck to you too. Will says, amen, and the betting market's taking away the imagination. I think that's in relation to me maybe talking about models and stuff. Milan Dog, here's another one. Which model do you think works better? Villa's higher wages, lower ability to pay higher transfer prices, or Spurs the opposite? At the moment, I'll probably get pelters for this, but it's Spurs. And the reason for that is Villa have hit a great couple of years. What we can't be sure yet is on the sustainability of it. Okay? So we've seen scenarios here with the likes of Ramsey going, etc. What's the sustainability of it? So they are going to have to come in line with the UEFA model, okay? Because they're regularly going to be playing in Europe. So they went a bit beyond from the wages perspective, okay? So therefore, your question is like, what's better? But it's a model, right? So a model like sustainability from a football perspective. You could say Villa's models was this, and now Villa's model is going to become this, and therefore that worked. Fine. We don't know that yet. We know that what Tottenham have done as a model over 20 years has improved that football club. That's indisputable. As much as Tottenham fans might hate Daniel Levy today, it's indisputable the growth of that football club and how it's been done through sustainability over the last 2 decades. Can't be disputed. And I know people want to kick on. So do I, right? But that can't be disputed. So we're comparing a 20-year period of how something's worked versus a 3 or 4. Tottenham's worked. And I spoke about this on our Money in Football podcast, literally on Tuesday on Patreon, about Villa and Newcastle and feeling like they're restricted about what they can do in the market, etc., and having their hands tied, etc., etc. But also, Newcastle found difficulties improving the squad. I think they've done quite well in this window to improve that. Villa has documented the wages issues. Okay, these aren't the only issues, but Tottenham have got a very good sustainable model that means that at a flick, it could become a real giant comparable with essentially the other 5, if you will, compete with, or more if Newcastle Villa get into it. And that's also what's frustrating Tottenham is fans is like, right, well, so when's that going to happen now? But it's because of the build of the last 20 years that now allows for that to be a possibility. Don J, yes, it's a free hit. Karam, my friend, says, what are your thoughts on Amorim and United this season? Do you think him and Ratcliffe can bring United back to where it was? It will take time, mate. But I think United will have a good season, mate. And I did say Kevin would be the last one. He says, you do realise after 4 years, nobody can actually see your team. 90% of YouTube is watched on a phone. Yeah. So you know what you could do? Take a screenshot, zoom in. You'll know. Probably. Diljit says, what's your favourite car? The one that gets me home. Another hoops, you're very welcome. Right, I'm going to go home. Watch the football. Smash a like if you haven't, guys. Sub to the channel. There will be definitely a deadline stream, by the way, next weekend. It is a Saturday deadline now. Remember, Villa Crystal Palace has moved to the Sunday night. So deadline next Saturday is 11 a.m. UK time. So there will be a deadline stream next Saturday. I hope you all have a brilliant game week, a brilliant weekend. Please be nice to each other. Suj and I'll be back with a game review podcast on Tuesday. Ciao for now, everyone.